Hi, I'm Donna from WireJewelryTutorials.com, and today I'm going to show you how to do a simple wire wrap for a gemstone donut. You'll notice in the video I actually start out with the shell donut, but I made a mistake, so since this didn't fit this donut, I decided to go with this one anyway. But that's okay because I like it better. I'm going to take the first one and just bend it in half a little. Now we need to see how thick this donut is. And we don't want coming out of the other side of the donut too much, just enough so we can catch it later. And just bend that upwards. So it's at a right angle. I'm going to take the other wire and right about the middle, just going to cross it over so it makes a loop. Just want to kind of press that a little bit. Now we need to bend these up a little. And try to keep that wire straight. Do the same on the other side. It might be easier to hold the loop in the round nose pliers. And do it that way. Then try to make sure those wires are as straight as possible. And just make sure that fits inside the first wire that you bent. Next we need some 28 gauge wire. I'm starting with about 6 feet, but if you prefer to work off the spool, you can go ahead and do that. I do have a very bad habit of taking too much wire when I first start working. Now to take the two inner wires, well, the one inner wire, sorry. Leave, I guess, about 1.5 to 2 inch tail on there. wrap it around that first wire twice, cross over to the other wire, and wrap that twice, then back to the first wire and twice again. And we're going to take that tail, we're going to secure it by wrapping it around those two pieces of 28 gauge wire there in the middle. Two to three times would be enough. I'm going to go one extra wrap just because I think it looks better when it goes all the way across. Try to make those wraps as neat and even as possible, which I don't think I did. Let me undo that last wrap so I can redo it. That's better. Okay, I'm going to take this piece, just put it along the outside of those wires. Oh, sorry, I'm doing this wrong. We need that loop to go below the bend in the other set. If you need to, you can adjust the size of that outer wire. I think I made it a little bit too small. So I'm just going to open it up a little bit here. Make sure you get the weaving wire underneath the side there. Okay, and then you can start weaving those together. I'm actually going to pull this out a little bit so I have something to hold on to while I work on this. You can always push it back in place later. It can be a little bit tricky holding them while you get it started. That should go into place soon. Just use your fingernail to push everything in place. And then go ahead and put that back where it should be. And you're just going to do a figure-8 weave over the whole thing. You're going to wrap twice on each side. I have some pink coral beads here that I'm going to add to this. Of course, I have it all tangled up in the wire now. Just add the bead, go over both wires, wrap twice, and come back under, wrap twice around those wires on this side, and then continue your figure 8 weave from there. How many passes you make between the frame wires on this will depend on how big your beads are. Mine are only 3 millimeters, so I probably only need to do a few passes. I'm going to try and keep the opening about the same size as the beads. Okay, looks like that's about time for another bead for me. And you're going to add this one the same way you did the first one. It's around both of these wires on this side, underneath the whole thing, and twice around that side, and then continue with your figure 8 weave. And don't forget to push everything together. And again, just lay that bead on top, go twice around that wire, underneath both, twice around this wire, and then continue your figure 8 weave. Okay, now this does keep wanting to slide around a little bit. Just keep an eye on that and keep pushing it all back into place. And that first wrap here wants to be kind of a little pain in the butt here. So let's see if I can't push it back in place up here. There it goes. Okay. Now we're going to keep weaving and adding beads. You can measure it against your donut, because each donut is different from this side to this side, even if the outer diameter is the same. So you just want to keep going until you get to the point, I guess until about almost to the edge. So I've got at least one more bead, probably two for this one. One more bead on there. Let's see where we're at. Yep, that's about right. Okay. Go around each side one more time. And then pull out the two on the side, outer edges. Sorry, I can't speak straight today. Now we're going to keep weaving and adding beads for a little bit more. I'm going to add it the same way we did when we were using all 4 wires. And how many beads you add here will depend on how big you want the veil to be. You don't want mine super big, so that's probably going to be the last of them for me. Let's see how that's going to look. Yeah, that's good enough. Actually, I need to... Okay, that's caught where it shouldn't be, so I'm going to take my needle tool and just sort of pull that out of there. I'm going to go ahead and break that off now. That should be okay. No, it's not okay. It doesn't always work like that. I'm wearing the wrong glasses and can't really see what I'm doing here too well. Okay, that should be all right. Okay, so now you want to see, however long you have here, you want almost as long for just a plain weave back here. It's just a regular figure 8 weave without the beads. That should be just about right. So at this point, just bend it forwards about 90 degrees. We need to bend this forward a little too, but we need to get between the beads. So I'm just going to use the needle tool to brace it against the frame wires and bend that forward a little. That only needs to be about 45 degrees. I'm going to take my bail making pliers. These might be a little bit big, but we'll see what we can make it, if we can make it work. Yeah. They are a little bit big, but that's okay. I'll take the smaller ones now and just kind of round that out a little bit more here. And you want both those bends to meet in the back there. And just carefully wrap around them as neatly as you can a couple of times, wedging it between those oh, don't go underneath that wire, you need to go over it. The wire's on the side, I mean. Just wedge it between the beads. And that'll keep it a little bit hidden. And push that open a little bit there. Put the wire between that and then go ahead and keep weaving a little bit. Right, at this point, I need to make sure I can shape it to the donut. Okay, there was a point that was a little smaller, I think. There it goes. Okay, I actually made this wrong, so it's not going to work. So let's see if I have another one that'll fit onto it. Let's see, will this one work? Yeah, that'll work. So we're going to use opalite instead of shell. But this donut is a little bit thicker than the other one was. So I'm going to have to see if I can't push this back a little bit to make it fit. Alright, let's see if that still fits on there. Well, it's a little tight, but I might be able to make that work. Okay. So before we finish the back, we need to do the front. For that, we need some more 28 gauge wire. Approximately 2 feet should be enough for this, for the first part. And just kind of coil, probably for this one I'd go about 3/4 inch maybe. We'll see how that works out. Just be careful the coils don't overlap. Let's see where we're at here. Not quite. One more wrap should do. Okay. Push that all the way up. Actually, pull it out a little bit. Trim it as close as you can. And use your needle nose pliers or bent nose pliers, like I'm using, either one. And just sort of burnish that down to make sure it stays in place. Then push it into place here. Push it all the way up to where the weaving ends on the other from before. And then just shape it into a little curve. It ends close to the bottom bead. At that point, just make a bend in the wire so it stays in place. Use a needle tool to open it up there, just to make sure there's enough space to work. And use the weaving wire, coiling wire, actually doing it sort of like a weave, and you could just wrap around it, but I'm going to make it look like it's woven together. So you go in from the front on this side. On the other side you'll have to go from the bottom, but on this side you go from the front and back over and around like you're just doing another figure-8 weave. Do that once more. Once you have that in there, bring it back up and coil. Another 3/4 inch or so should be okay. Okay, how far did I go on that? Right about 3/4 inch. So I'm going to finish this off the same as before. Clip it as close as you can to the wire and use your pliers to burnish it down into place. We're good. Okay. Alright, I didn't quite use 2 whole feet for that, probably about 1.5. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. Okay, I'm right at 3/4 inch, maybe a couple more wraps. Oh, one more should be enough. Now we're going to trim this one and burnish it down. Just pressing it down to make sure it stays in place. And if you're using color-coded wire, you have to be careful doing that. You can still do it, but just be very careful not to get the wire next to it. You know, the coils that are next to it. Now push that over and try to get it shaped as evenly as possible with the other side. Use your pliers if you have to get the shape right. Go ahead and make that bend. Now on this side we need to come up from the bottom when we weave it onto here. Let's make sure we have a clear spot for it. And bring it up through the bottom. Pull it through. And you're going to bring it around and then underneath that wire. Then you're going to wrap around that wire once more and then pull it up again. And that'll keep it secure. And bring it back around and continue coiling for another 3/4 of an inch. And we're just about there. So it doesn't look like it's even with the other side. So I'm going to give it an extra couple wraps to make it even. That should be about right. And go ahead and finish it off the same as we did the other ones. Okay, those aren't quite as even as I'd like them. Let's see if I can't kind of stretch that side to match the other one a little. Okay, that's good enough. Now we're just gonna trim that about 1/8 of an inch past the coil. Well, maybe not 1/8 of an inch on that one. Okay, this should be even. As long as they're even, the exact measurement doesn't really matter. I'm just going to use round nose pliers and make kind of a loose spiral here. And we'll do the same on the other side. And just adjust them till you get them where you like them. Okay. Now we're going to take this and make sure it looks okay. Shape it so it fits the front of the donut, because some donuts are flat, some are curved. This one's a little curved, so we're just going to match that curve on there. Okay, now we're going to go back to the back of it. It might be easier to work without it on the donut still, but we still need to make sure it fit. I'm just going to keep weaving till we get to the bottom of it. And it's just the same figure 8 weave we were doing before. Should be almost there. I'm going to bend this outward just a little bit to make it easier to work with here. Yeah, that fit on a little easier. I'm going to go ahead and finish that off here. Just going to wrap it around a couple of times. About 4 or 5. Okay, now that, oh wait, I didn't do that part yet. Alright, so go ahead and just push that down. Now what we need to do here is just put the donut in there. And we're going to have to create hooks out of this. These two wires hanging down here, and those will grab that. Actually, it might be better. Let's see if we can do it this way instead. Need to push it up underneath that loop that's going through there. Not sure if you can see that or not. You see we have it coming out underneath that little loop that first bend in the first wire from the very beginning of the tutorial. That's what's behind there. I'm just going to bring that wire out underneath there and then try to grab the other one now too. For some reason that one's getting stuck somewhere. There we go. Just pull them up real tight. So that it holds the wire onto the stone securely. Now we need to trim it close, but not so close we can't curl the end of the wire. Bring that one forward a little bit more. And the same on that one. Just going to use the round nose pliers to kind of curl it a little bit. We'll do that for both of them. Then use your chain nose pliers to close that up a little bit and tuck it up underneath there if you can. Just sort of squeeze it in together. So it's all nice and neat. And if you need to, you can make some adjustments to these spirals too. I want them a little bit tighter. It's going to be a little bit stubborn, it looks like. It's probably about as close to even as I'm going to get those. This needs to be adjusted just a little bit. Just get it so that's centered in there. And you're done.